Doodlebud here. Now, I have reviewed a fair number of laser engravers and laser cutters from a bunch of different brands, but there's one brand in particular here. We got xTool. I find they have been the best built, least troublesome, have just worked of all the systems I've reviewed. Now, I know a few things about this stuff because I actually used to make these, not laser cutters, but I was an engineer for about a decade and a half, and I did precision laser measurement systems. So sort of the opposite usage of lasers. Instead of cutting holes in things and engraving, we would use lasers to do measurements. So there would be multiple lasers typically, and multiple lenses and cameras, all that sort of stuff go together. A lot of times in industrial applications, so harsh environments, and your stuff cannot fail. Ours would go for multiples over what these would retail for. But there's design things you have to have in mind and assembly procedures when you make a system like that. So I can't help but to look at these units that I get for review and put them through that mind's eye. Now, these are kind of user grade. These aren't industrial, but I tell you, a lot of the things we would check for and incorporate into our designs, I see right here. So I'm going to roll through these today. A few of the things I pick up on that I find are important, because at the end of the day, these are precision laser systems. We are moving them exceptionally fast through the motion systems. We're putting pretty high powered laser, and we're trying to get very intricate, accurate designs. So repeatability, stability, reliability, all that stuff has to be here if you want these things to work and be trouble-free. So let me show you some of the details that I've picked up on so far. We're gonna start off with something really boring, but fasteners. Okay, this is what holds everything together. And since these things are going through a lot of movement, nothing can move on here. Your parts have to be where they need to be. Nothing should budge. Everything should be assembled properly, and you got to have quality fasteners to do it. Now, one thing I noticed with the xTool, they use a lot of stainless fasteners, which is great, higher quality. You can go cheaper, it'd save a few dollars. They don't do that. Now, they have a kit that they give you. I'm moving in 2 weeks, so all my laser engraving stuff is in a storage locker, but they have a kit that they give you with spare nuts and bolts, all that type of stuff. And there's a rule that we always had. Every single fastener, no matter what it was, would have to have either a locking washer, a locking nut, locking wire, locking clip, Loctite, or sometimes a few of the above. I don't have any of the spare ones to show you, but let's pick one of these, take it out and check. I also don't have the keys they supply, but no big deal. I got my own here. Yes, I know these aren't the Bondist. These are the cheap brand. I think it's a 2.5 millimeter. Let's go over here, pop one out so you can see I'm not setting this up. Let's do that. Oh, and that's a tip, by the way. The ball end ones, you just put them between your fingers and you rotate like that. So we're doing lots of fasteners. That's the way to do them. Anyway, so now we can zip it off. And this is something I noticed in all their fasteners. Here we go. No exception right here. Now this stuff matters. I believe the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. We have a flat washer. Perfect. Split lock washer. They're not the best. We also have Loctite. So check balances there. We got locking washer and Loctite and a flat washer for it to sit on. Job well done. So another thing that is very important, but it is kind of boring, it's your mounting when you're sitting on a desk. Now, you define a plane with 3 points. That's why we have tripods, and they're exceptionally stable. When you set them down, it's touching on those 3 points. If you had 4 legs, like on a stool, it's gonna go off kilter. They have to, the fourth leg, they all have to be adjustable. So here we got 4 points. And even on the D1 Pro, I took off one of the legs to show you. We have these little grommets on the feet, and they're even domed a little bit. So first you got to make sure your frame is as level and as square as you can get it. But even when all 4 legs sit on a table, it can't be perfectly flat. And even if you move tables, workspaces, it's not the same. So they have thought of that. A little small detail. Now, a lot of them have little feet, but they're not domed like this. And sometimes they're actually really, really hard. Here, now we have, a couple millimeters of adjustment in those feet to take out if the frame is off just a little bit or if the workspace is off. Now with my S1, I hung it off the table here a bit just to show you this. Even these feet down here, they're a little bit soft, right? So this way, when it sits on a table, if everything's out just a little bit, a few millimeters or off a little bit more, those feet can take up that difference. The reason this is so important, you have a large motion system moving around incredibly fast. It has to be precise. You cannot have your frame going in and out of kilter during those movements. They've taken care of that too. Extra note on the S1, I do not recommend this. Use a coaster if you do. Great place to hold your drink. Okay, let's get back to the video. Another super important thing, and it didn't skimp on it on the D1 Pro, is the steel shafts that you have here along with the steel wheels. Here in the S1, of course, they're gonna do that too. Now, this is a big deal. You're moving these systems incredibly fast over a very long period of time, and you need really tight, repeatable motion. You need hardened steel on here to do this, so things don't wear out. I've seen some of the other ones, the rail is extruded into an aluminum housing. That's not the way to do it. It works, but it's not the best way to do it. These are going to wear down if they're anything other than hardened steel. So again, they didn't skimp on that. Even on the D1 Pro, the sort of entry-level systems, they're using the proper gear because they understand that is so critical. Some systems, instead of wheels like we have here, they'll use a linear recirculating bearing. But again, those are full of ball bearings, and they're all steel ball bearings going on to steel shafts as well. So autofocus is a new feature that's really popular on these laser engravers and cutters. xTool has theirs, of course, and the way they do it is really good. I've seen other methods. This one is so simple and extremely quick. It just has this little actuator that goes up and down, and that'll touch off on your material here, and it just pops on here nice and easy. Even if you mess it up, it'll tell you didn't put it on there properly, and it's going to go over. I'll show you in a second. And there's a reference surface way in the back here. There we go. So way back here, there's a little reference surface that's going to do the math and see the difference between this reference surface and here. And you can't see with the contrast, but even this part, oh, you can see it a little bit there. We got like a little mini gusset. So this thing is nice and solid. You need to have your reference point stable. So here it is in action. I hit the button. Goes over to the reference point. It just did the math and you're auto-focused. Another thing that's great is you can do the whole thing standalone, all just with xTool. They have their own software as well. Now you can use Lightburn. I've used it a ton. It's mega popular. Their software when it first started on the D1 Pro, I gotta tell you, wasn't the best, but they have upped the game, especially because there's other systems. We got the xTool F1, we have the new S1, there's the other CO2 laser systems as well, and they can all work seamlessly with the software. It isn't the best, I know that for sure, but it is getting a lot better. They're putting more functionality, and you can jump from system to system. We're gonna do a quick little simple, super fast project. This is the only piece of what I have kicking around I can do, but we'll go right from the S1 to the F1 and give you some ideas for production speed. So we have a simple little project here. We got a little Christmas ornament that we're gonna do. And what I have around the outside is a frame. Now that frame is gonna actually fit into the F1. So you could, I have a 3D printer, you could 3D print a fixture on here, but you can also just use your laser to cut out a new plate. So what we're gonna do is show how to use both tools to get things done really quick. We're gonna cut out the frame of the Christmas tree. I'm gonna turn that layer off for now, the decorations on the inside. We're gonna cut out the outskirts there of the tree plus the frame. We're gonna take the frame, plop it in there, that will be our fixture, put the tree into it, so that'll hold it in place, and do the engraving here. So that way, if you had a job to do like that, you could cut out all the pieces you need on your big, large sheet of plywood. You can do the engraving all in one shot, but this thing is mega fast to do that. So let's take advantage of it and show you how. Okay, let's pop this out of here. And I just realized my microphone wasn't connected properly, so hopefully the audio is better now. My apologies beforehand. There we go. So we're gonna pop out our Christmas tree and then our frame, which will be our jig. And I've got to tell you, this is sort of the ultimate setup. You got the S1 down here, and with all this space here in the back, I got the air purifier, my rotary on hand, and the F1 ready to go. I popped out the little base plate. This one is just going to fit right in there, and then you can slip in your ornament that you're doing. There we go. This is a bit of a tricky one. You can see all those little edges on here. Let's get it aligned. There we go. Pop that in there. So now this goes in place. Maybe you use one of the clamps just to hold it down. I'll go get that right now. But you can pop your units in and out, in and out, in and out, mega quick. I put the little clamp in place so the fixture plate won't move. What I also did is I put a couple thin pieces of cork in behind, because otherwise your ornament here in this case will drop through and sit kind of further down. And then you got to kind of lean the machine back, let it pop out, fish it out. That's a little ridiculous. So I just have this in behind, so that way it sits above the plate just a little bit. Put your object in, hit the button. It's going to take, I don't know, 2-3 seconds. Pop it out. Next one goes in. Boom, away you go. Another couple seconds. So if you can use both the machines at once, do your cutting, do your engraving with the Galvo. The Galvo is so fast. Let's finish off this little ornament now. Just go over to the XCS here. We're gonna switch devices. Come down here, where's the button? There it is, switch devices, and we're gonna choose the F1. It warns me we're going to lose any of the parameters, so I took some notes. Disconnect in the S1, switched into the F1. There's the beep. Here's our workspace. Now when I switched over, the project was still there. It was just down in the corner, had to zoom out. Now I'm just gonna snap it to the center because I centered the fixture that way. That looks pretty good. I'll zoom in and double check. Okay, we're all set to go. Let's hit the button. Job is done. Let's pop it out, and then you would just pop in your next one and keep it going. Now obviously for some jobs it makes more sense just to put the whole sheet in here, do your engraving, and then do your cutouts, and you just walk away, let it do its thing. But in some cases, the engraving that can happen on the F1 can be so much quicker than your XY style, like here on the S1, or if you got a D1 Pro or something like that. So being able to use 2 units, also having it a setup like this is like the ultimate setup. You can really get your speed going. Another nice design choice on xTool is the use of optical limit switches. Now other manufacturers use them as well. They're not the only one, but they even use optical limit switches on the D1 Pro. How these work is here, it's kind of like on your garage door. So this is your little transmitter, there's a receiver, little infrared beam that goes through. Then when the head comes along to do the homing, there'll be a little bracket that comes through and trips the sensor. Now that's even present on the D1 Pro, so they're entry-level systems. They use optical switches as well. The advantage with those over the mechanical ones, now the mechanical ones, there's a little lever and there's a little wheel at the end, so something will go along, push it down. At the bottom there's a little button, click, that does the sensing for your limit switches. Here the optical versions, they are also faster, so they can detect when it gets engaged quicker. The signal it sends to the motion board, it's getting to the motion board quicker. It's also a cleaner signal, but also it's optical versus mechanical. Those can break down over time. These last much, much longer. Another thing I find with xTool is they understand how you're going to use your machine and what's important. So first, the Honeycomb that they sell. This thing is really good. I have some other Honeycomb bases. They're not made as well as this one. They're kind of, they flip and flop around. They're not really rugged. This one is significantly heavier and it's very, very solid. Also has your measurement on here too, so you can check stuff. Again, you really don't need a tape measure anymore when using the S1. Also, it has these lovely little magnetic clips that go on here. It flips down to get out of the way. You flip these up and you pull them in and out, set them wherever you want on there. Super, super handy and thoughtful. One thing though, they could improve, as I found, is when you put your honeycomb in, it just sort of slides in. You put it in place. They say align it in the front edge and on the side, and that's okay, I guess. But if you're really doing a lot of work and want to make sure everything's fixtured and you're doing repeatability, it'd be nice if this thing kind of clamped in place somehow. Maybe there was a little clamp that came over the edge, an over center clamp or something. Anyways, that would hold it in place just so you know 100% that it doesn't move. I haven't had mine move, but you just got to be careful when you put stuff in. So that is one thing I wish they fixed. Safety is a massive thing when it comes to working with lasers. These are 40-watt lasers. I used to work with ones that were a fraction of a watt, and they would even scan baby heads. So you had to be very mindful of these things were going to shine into someone's eyes. So something like this scale here is really, really dangerous, but they got you covered literally because they have in the cover, they got your filter in there as well. Now you can have your goggles, of course. Sometimes when you run the F1, not everything can fit under here nice and easy where you slide that down. You don't have to worry. So of course, sometimes it has to be up if you're doing other things, especially on the rotary. So I get that. But they have the goggles and that. But having this built right into the enclosure, all that is really, really nice. And the enclosure too, so getting rid of smoke. This is super handy for this little F1. The built-in air filtration system gets rid of the smoke. Like I've done engraving with this machine inside of a tiny, tiny little office. I didn't get a whiff of anything. And of course on the S1, they have the whole setup here. Now my shop, this is, let me give you a wide angle. This is all I have to work with. This tiny little IKEA desk that I welded up together. It's on hinges, folds up onto the wall. This is how big my space is to work with, a bunch of stuff underneath. So it's not very glamorous like you see in other channels, but it is nice because there's the hose. I put a little extension on it. I open the garage door a little bit, out the smoke goes. So I can work in this small one-car garage that holds kids' seats and bikes and everything else. I get this is my workbench. I can work in here and not have to worry about smell and debris everywhere. As you saw in the software, I could switch between my units pretty easy, and also you can plug in your rotary as well. So I could use the same rotary unit on my D1 Pro in the back, on the F1, or on the S1. So that is really nice across all the platforms. All of their gear works. Now there is one thing I would like for them to do. They are going to watch this video, so I might as well put in a little bit of a wish list, is update the chuck. This chuck works well. It's all great. But especially when you're doing things like tumblers, where they're angled, you have your mugs, they have a taper to them. I've seen some chucks from other manufacturers where it is adjustable, so you can rotate it up or rotate it down instead of having to put a wedge underneath and then put a level to check it. Have it so that this whole head here, now you'd have to update it of course, but have it so the whole head here can rotate. That way you can accommodate things that have a taper on them. Being able to expand your workspace is quite nice. And this is something xTool does in all their machines as well. So even on the D1 Pro I have in the back, you can get a frame that expands the engravable area. Now other devices do that too, but it's nice they offer it even on their entry-level units. On the F1, you pop this open. Again, I don't have it, but there is a conveyor setup that goes into here, so you can expand now your engravable area on there, which is quite nice. It's automated for doing lots of large batches. And same thing on the S1. Again, I don't have the conveyor attachment with mine. I do have the riser base, which is great, and a welding tank down there in the background. That doesn't matter. But you put the riser base on and there's a conveyor. So now you can have long boards feeding in here to do like big signs and stuff like that. I was at a pumpkin patch thing the other month. I saw all these huge long signs. I thought, wow, that would be absolutely perfect for a machine like this. So if your needs grow and the different things you're getting into expand, you see, you can get expansion on these machines as well, which is really great. You don't have to get rid of all your stuff and now pay a huge upgrade and get different machines. You can stick with your same machines and just pay an upgrade to expand the frame or get a conveyor or the one on the F1. Now with my previous engineering background in actually making machines like this, just laser measurement versus laser cutting, laser engraving, I was involved the whole process from working with the customer on initial designs to final product and everything in between, R&D, testing, calibration, you name it. And when I look at machines like these, they get sent to me for review sometimes from different manufacturers, I find little design issues. I haven't found those on any of the xTool machines yet. I even showed you little details like the fasteners. I want to know these little things because they do matter. And I think this is why that anytime I've received one of these machines, they've all worked. I've had no problem with it, whether it's with assembly, functionality, reliability, errors, nothing. I haven't had one job crap out on me. The only time something screws up is when I screw up behind the design terminal here and tell it to do something wrong. So, but it will do whatever you tell it to do, and if you tell it to do the wrong thing, it will go ahead and do the wrong thing. That's the only time. Other than that, I've plugged them in, installed them in the software, and they have just flat out worked. And that's what you'd want. If you're doing this type of work, you don't want to spend time troubleshooting your machine and getting into issues and technical support, all this stuff. You just want the thing to work, and you want to spend your time sending jobs to the machine, getting jobs, working with customers, delivering them, all that stuff, troubleshooting. That's just a waste of time. So far, again, at least my experience with these and from the things I see in the overall design, I can see why I haven't had any issues whatsoever. Now, there is a promotion going on at xTool. We got the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales going on. I think it runs from like the 14th here of November up until it's either the 25th or the 30th of November. All the details will be down there in the bottom, but they have promotions going on. You can save $150 off an F1 or $200 off of an S1. In the description below, I'll have the discount codes, all the details that you got to put, and the exact dates on there as well. So check that out. But I thought I would do this video just because I do have a bit of a unique background, unique perspective when it comes to laser systems. This is my wheelhouse. This is all I ever did, even in R&D labs, looking at samples under scanning electron microscopes. So this is fun stuff for me to do. And there's things that I just see a little bit differently than the average person out there. So if you're looking into one of these, I give it the seal of approval from having worked on stuff like this before. So I hope this was helpful in understanding how these things work and some of the details I really feel that they're doing a great job on. If you have any questions, I'll do my best in the comments below to answer those. Other than that, thanks for watching. Let's chat down there. There's a subscribe button. Hit that one. Again, check the description for the details. Until then, we'll catch you next time.